So there are several loans that let you pay additional principal per month, which reduces the total amount of interest you owe. In this video, I will show you how to calculate your interest savings from paying extra principal. In this worksheet, I have all the information that I need for my calculations. At the top, I have annual percentage rate of this loan. In this case, we are assuming a 30-year standard home loan with a rate of 5%. We have 12 payments per year, 360 total payments, and a loan amount of $600,000. To determine the effect of extra principal, I have calculated the base payment using the PMT function. At the end of this video, I will calculate the total interest for the base loan and also the total interest paid for the loan where we are paying the additional principal per month. To calculate the interest and the principal component for the base payment, we can use the IPMT and PPMT function in Excel. So let's start with the interest component first. Type an equal sign in cell B9, then IPMT, left bracket. As the rate of interest in cell B1 is annual rate, we are going to divide it by the payments per year. And we want this part to remain static, so to make it an absolute reference, hit F4. Then period for which we are calculating the interest rate, that is in cell A7. Total number of periods in cell E1. PV means the present value, which is the amount of loan we are borrowing from the bank in cell E2. FV is 0 in our case as we will be paying the full loan amount eventually. Then type is 0 as all the payments are accrued in the end. As you can see, the number appears to be a negative number, which means it's a cash outflow. For our example here, I want to show it as a positive number, so I'll insert a negative sign in front of the formula. We are going to use similar method to calculate the principal amount using the PPMT function. Now, if I scroll down at the bottom of the list, on the left, you will see that at payment 360, we are paying $13.36 in interest and $3,000 in principal. So I'll go back to the top. In cell F8, I will create a formula to calculate the interest component of my next payment. So I'll type an equal sign and the remaining principal. I want to multiply that by the interest rate, which is in cell B1. I want that reference to the interest rate to remain static. I don't want it to change, so I'll press F4 to make it an absolute reference. And because it's an annual rate, I need to divide it by the number of payments per year, which is in cell B2, and also make that an absolute reference. So I have my remaining principal multiplied by annual interest rate divided by the number of periods per year. Looks good. So I'll press tab and I see my interest payment. I'm not paying any extra principal yet. So as a check, I can make sure that my result in F8 is exactly the same as corresponding payment for period in cell B7. I see the same result. So I know I got my calculations right. To calculate the principal, I need to do two things. I need to subtract the interest from the base payment and also add any extra principal that I might pay. So in cell G8, I will type an equal sign and the principal is the base payment, which is in H1, and I don't want that reference to change. So F4 to make it absolute minus the interest component in F8 plus any extra principal that I pay, which is in cell H2. The H2 reference will stay static, so I'll press F4 to make it an absolute reference and tab. So I have my principal component of $720.93, which matches the principal for the period 1 for the loan where we are not paying any extra principal. And the remaining principal on the loan is just a matter of subtracting the principal we paid from the previous period's remaining principal. So that's equal to remaining principal in H7 minus principal payment in G8. And enter. There we go. We see that we have a bit over 599,000 left. Now I can copy all of these payments down by copying the formulas from period 1, which is row 8 of the worksheet. So I will select F8 through H8 and double click the fill handle at the bottom right corner. Looks like everything's filled in. But I will scroll down to the bottom of the table, and if I'm lucky, the last row will match with the last row from my other table. So yep. I have my interest of 13.36, principal of $3,000, and my remaining principal is 0. Good. That means the base calculations are correct. Now I can go back up to the top and see how extra principal affects the payments. So let's say I have a little bit of extra money per month and I can pay $200 in extra principal. So in H2, I will type the number 200. But before I press enter, I want to remember that in cell G8, we have a principal amount of $720.93. When I press enter, that amount goes up by 200. And as you can see, the remaining principal balance has gone down and everything else appears to be correct. There is one aspect of paying additional principal that you need to watch out for. If we scroll down, we will see that the remaining principal goes negative after a while. We need to ignore any rows where the remaining principal is below zero. So I will go back up to the top and we can now calculate the total interest paid for each of the loans. If I click in cell B4, I can calculate the sum of all the interest paid for the loan where we are not paying any additional principal by typing an equal sign, then sum, followed by left bracket, then I'll click cell B7. Then to select the rest of the cells within the column, I will press Ctrl Shift down arrow and I have selected everything to the bottom of the data range. I will type right bracket and enter and scroll up and I see that the total interest paid on this loan is near $600,000, so quite a lot. Now let's take a look at the total interest paid for the loan where we are paying 200 of extra principal. So I'll click in cell H4, type an equal sign, but one thing to remember is that we have some negative remaining principal values. So we want to exclude the interest cell from any row where the remaining principal is negative, because in effect, we have already paid off the loan. So the formula that I use is SUMF. Type an equal sign in H4, SUMF followed by left bracket and then the interest column, which starts with F7 and then Ctrl Shift down arrow, a comma, and the criteria is double quotes greater than 0, double quotes and right parenthesis, and enter. If I scroll back up to the top, I can see that by paying additional principal of 200 per month, I have saved about $80,000 in interest payments. And you can experiment to see how you can save the most interest. Calculating the amount of principal and interest you have or will pay off on your loans reflects both the equity you have in your purchases and the amount of money you can write off your taxes. Also remember that many loans let you pay additional principal, which can greatly reduce the total interest paid on a loan.